Alright, so following on from our last video where we were expanding and simplifying, this is solving by first expanding the brackets. So we want to be able to expand the brackets and then solve. This should be pretty easy. Let's choose a few of these to do. Maybe C from the first row looks like a bit of fun. They're all a bit of fun, but some of you think that all the first ones are easy and I keep stealing the easy ones. Let's steal a few others for you. They're all really the same, aren't they? So 3 outside of M plus 4 equals 31. Remember, we always have a choice here. We could divide by 3 first to get rid of that 3, but because it doesn't go into 31 nicely, it's not a good idea, is it? If I try and do that, I'm going to end up with a fraction before I really want to. If we can, we try to get fractions only on the last step, not earlier. Plus, in this case, it says by first expanding the brackets, so we're going to take their advice and use our distributive law to expand those brackets. So that line is equivalent to the following line. 3 times m, well that's 3m. 3 times positive 4, 3 4s are 12. That equals 31. Now remember, it's just like getting undressed. We've got to undress the letter, get it to its natural state. I've got a choice. I can get rid of the 3 or get rid of the 12. We get rid of the outer layers first, don't we? You've always got to get rid of what's on the outside first. So the opposite of adding 12 is to subtract 12. So I go ahead and do that. Subtracting 12. That gives me 3m on the left-hand side. I perform my inverse operation to get rid of adding 12. I subtracted it. 31 minus 12, well, that's equal to 19. Last step, what's the inverse operation? What undoes multiplying by 3? And I can hear you thinking it, dividing by 3. So we go ahead and divide each side by 3. Remember, I'm modeling the working that I think is going to minimize your errors in an exam. So dividing by 3, the left-hand side is now just m, and I can leave my answer as 19 divided by 3. That's a nice answer. You could write 6 1/3 if you wanted, but I'll encourage you to leave them as improper fractions for now. I think they're actually more useful for you when you go up in years. So there's a little hot tip for you. Let's have another go. Maybe H. H looks like fun. What have I got for H? 2 outside of 1 minus m equals 13. Again, I do a quick check. Will 2 go into 13? No, not going to go. Okay. Let me just expand my bracket then. 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. 2 multiplied by negative m, negative 2m. Now this is a good one. I chose this one deliberately because some people see the subtraction sign and think, oh well, I've got to add 2 to get rid of this 2. But what is that 2? That's a positive 2. This negative, remember, belongs to the 2m. That negative symbol or the minus sign, that belongs to the 2m. This is a positive 2, so to get rid of that positive 2, I need to subtract 2. So I go ahead and do that. Subtracting 2 from the left-hand side gives me what we just said we'd have, negative 2m. 13 minus 2 is 11. Righto. I've got to undo my next step. Well, obviously, m is being multiplied by negative 2. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, or multiplication by a reciprocal. So I do that. I divide by negative 2. If I do it to one side, I need to do it to the other, showing my working at all times. Therefore, the negative 2's cancel. I've just got m. And when you've got 11 divided by negative 2, we really just put the negative out the front, or we tend to write it in the numerator rather than the denominator. It doesn't really matter. If you left it as 11 over negative 2, I would still mark you correctly, but remember, we're always trying to write our maths as nicely and beautifully as possible, so we try and keep it as simple as we can. Let's have a go at the very last one, O. Why not? Oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? Let's have a look. 4 outside of 3 minus 2a equals 13. Well, 4's not going to go into that 13, so I can forget about that. Let's expand. 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. 4 multiplied by negative 2a is negative 8a. That's equal to 13. Well, I'm going to get negative 8a on its own. The 12's got the least amount to do with it, so I'm going to get rid of that, remembering it's a positive 12. So I subtract 12 as my first step. Get my blue pen back. So now on the left-hand side, I just have negative 8a, and that's equal to 13 minus 12 is 1. Last step, dividing by negative 8 on each side. Remember, that's negative 8 times a, so I've got to divide by negative 8. And I'm left with a equals negative 1 over 8. Now, they're the ones out of the book there. Later on, they may give you some to choose from. I just want to talk, we've talked about how I've always checked to see whether the number in front is a factor of the number on the other side. Let's just make one up and show you what would happen if that was the case, if it were possible. For some reason my stylus is playing up. There we are, got it back again. So just a little bonus question here. Why not? You girls and boys have earned a bonus question for finally asking me some maths. Let's expand and simplify this one, or use our little shortcut method. See that it works the same way. So I'm going to have 3 outside of 2m minus 4, and that's going to equal 18. That'll do. All right. If I expand and simplify like the previous ones, I'll get the right answer. But in this case, I've looked at it and I've seen 3 is a factor of 18. I could go ahead right now and divide by 3, and it's not going to overcomplicate the problem. That's the only reason we don't do it in the other occasions. We want to simplify without overcomplicating. Well, that's going to be okay. The 3's will cancel, so I'm just left with 2m minus 4, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now we undo the other steps. Opposite of subtracting 4 is to add 4. So I have 2m is equal to 10. And finally, the opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide by 2. So m is going to equal 10 divided by 2 is 5. And even though I did it without writing what I was doing, having looked around the room and looked at the little practice test you did, I think it's really important you're showing what you're doing each step as well. Some of you have made the habit of doing it with a little arrow down here and saying divide by 3 and divide by 3 rather than just showing it. You know what? That's terrific. That's great communication. If you're happier doing it that way, continue to do it that way because that's really nice. So that's just an example of how we can do it on the occasions where we don't need to expand first. Keep up the great work. We've got plenty more time before the exam. If you've got questions, keep them coming and I will continue to help you. Good stuff, guys. Bye.